So now that we have had our pre-conferences, it's time for us to actually go into the classrooms and observe. What we want to think about is what kinds of behaviors we should adhere to when we actually go into these classrooms, when we enter the classroom, while we're making the observations, and when it's time for us to leave. What are some specific behaviors that we should display in these classrooms? And looking at our GPS, remember, we're moving through the cycle. After our pre-conference, we go straight into our observation. What protocols should we follow when we enter the classroom, while we're there, and when we exit? I want you all to think about that for just a second, and in a couple of minutes I want you to share with a table partner. Feel free to go ahead and start sharing. Talk with someone at your table about the protocol you should follow when doing an observation. If we could go ahead and come back together, what are some of the things you talked about? What kinds of behaviors should we practice when we enter a classroom for an observation?
Miss Abigail said that we shouldn't look like we're distracted by other things, that we should be completely focused on the observation and not into our email or into other things.
Oh, absolutely. So while I'm in that classroom observing, I should be there for the purpose of observing. I shouldn't be on my phone, I shouldn't be checking my email or anything else, any other distracting behaviors.
We talk about being as unobtrusive as possible, and also to make sure that we don't interrupt. Like, let them leave their classroom so that they know that, they're still in command. But also trying to find that balance whenever we do see little Johnny over here hanging from the ceiling, and the teacher isn't necessarily looking. Like, what do we do in that situation? Because we don't want to take over their classroom, but we don't want little Johnny to kill himself either.
And that's a good point that you bring up. When is it appropriate for us to intervene? When is it appropriate? I mean, what do you think? When do we intervene?
Safety.
Well, if there's a safety issue, we obviously intervene, right? If someone's in danger, that's a good time for us to step in.
I have this not as a mentor, but as an administrator, and also doing compliance reviews for the state, coming in the room and no one's really told the students
That you're coming?
Yeah. And then, the first question I get is, whose grandma are you? And it's just that, I think if you kind of have that opportunity to pre-discuss that, with the mentee, to say, perhaps if you just tell the kids that I'm coming in and what the purpose is, that you can avoid some of that, interact. I mean, it's hard not to interact with the kids, but that's not really what you're there.
Right, that's not why you're there. And so that would be a good point of discussion with your mentee, alert the children that I'm coming in.
You may still want to be able to exempt from that, because if it's a teacher that's struggling and you alerted them that you are coming, and when you walk in and sit down, the children are going to do, they're going to be children. Because I was telling them, I've seen everything from the extreme to one extreme going into classrooms to you hear to find my teacher because she don't know what she's doing. And so generally when I do meet with the teacher, I remind her that whatever we decide on, don't go off script. Because they'll panic sometimes and they'll start pulling things in and out, and then it causes pure chaos in the classroom.
And so I guess it would just be a matter of knowing the students in that classroom and the teacher knowing whether it's okay, whether these students need to be told ahead of time or not.
Because when I was principal at my school, our students were very comfortable with people coming in and out. That was the norm of our school. So it all depends on the culture of your school and what's going on, because some of the students may get a little bit excitable. So it just all depends. Again, it goes into that differentiation.
Right.
Of knowing your teacher and knowing those students.
Right.
Because I've seen it all.
One of the ladies that I train with sometimes for our SCTS training, she had been in the classroom for a very long time, and then she finally stepped out of the classroom and started doing some other things. And she went into the classroom as an evaluator, and she said when she would go into the building, she was just so excited to see children that she would randomly run up and start hugging children. And she had to make herself realize, wait, I can't do that. I'm distracting students. I'm interrupting classes. So sometimes it's not even the children that are disruptive. Sometimes we have to be mindful of how we go into classrooms and how we go into buildings so that we aren't distracting.
One other thing that we talked about at our table, and it's sad but kind of true, is that kids are more, a lot of kids are more wary of a stranger coming into, you know, their classroom now because there's so many
Because of everything going on.
of, you know, shootings and stuff like that. So, you know, a stranger walking into your classroom sometimes can be really anxiety provoking
Right.
for kids.
So
I think it's
again,
important.
in some cases, it may be appropriate to go ahead and say, there's going to be someone coming in later, she's just going to be coming to visit. So that may be appropriate, or in your case, it may not be, because then the children might be like, oh, here's an opportunity for me to say something really bad about this teacher.
Yeah, and so when I go back to the norm, because if administrators are coming in, that really should be the purpose. You know, if you're at the beginning of the year, you're telling the students, we're going to have people observing all of the time. And so I don't want to single it out to a teacher. I just know from an administrative point of view that it should just be a norm that we have people in and out observing. When I go in, and I've gone from the high school down to the elementary school, when I go in and the kids ask me, who are you, mom, are you, you know, are you know, I know you, what's the name, sister, or something like that. I generally tell them, I say, I'm here to observe everybody.
Right.
And so I take it off of the teacher. I'm just going in here, I'm excited about being in your classroom. I just want to see what you're learning.
Right,
And then sometimes that really helps set the tone because they think I'm watching them.
right.
And then the kids that generally misbehave all of a sudden start looking up and they start doing stuff like, she's looking at you.
Right. Exactly.
And so that's an opportunity for me even to help the teacher out, especially
Yes.
if I know that
Yes.
it's classroom management, they got here to watch you.
Right.
Eyes on you, that kind of thing. So that
Yes.
sets the tone.
And I love that. I'm not here to watch the teacher. I'm not here to catch the teacher. I'm here to observe the class. Yeah, and that's what our new rubric is asking us to do anyway, observe the class. Right. What about if you went into a classroom and a teacher was teaching the wrong content? She was teaching it incorrectly. Do you intervene? Do you intervene if she has that same class or the same topic for the next class?
So that situation is really hard, and it's so hard because you want to talk so much as a teacher, but you just have, and I have observed other teachers do this effectively, where you just, I'm just trying to use something really where you just kind of hold it in, and then maybe at the end, write a little sticky note and put it on their desk, just to make it a smooth exit for you and not to embarrass or correct the teacher in front of your students. But it's really hard. You just kind of have to
Right.
keep words down.
So one time when I had an intern from, I live in Rock Hill, so Winthrop is in our town, so we get a lot of interns. This is her first internship, and she was being observed by her university supervisor, and she was doing grammar, and it was completely wrong. And so I was in the back of the classroom, and I have a very, like, my face just gives everything away, so I was in the back of the room with my mouth covered, and I was trying to not look horrified. But I didn't intervene, but the university supervisor said that I should have, because she was teaching my students wrong. But I didn't know what the right thing was.
I'll say this actually happened to me like last week. We have a different model at our school, so we have what we call lead teacher. Miss Caitlin and I were lead teachers, and we have a teacher fellow in our classroom that we're working with. But it's a coaching model in that we're in there all the time, and we teach kind of together. So for me, if something is said wrong, it's so easier just to go ahead and slide on in, and we're kind of going together through it anyways. And I wouldn't let it go. I mean, I don't want the kids to be taught wrong. So you just kind of slide it on in and you keep on going, and then you talk about it later.
I think a general rule is that we don't want to take away any credibility from the teacher. We don't want to take away any power from the teacher, so we should be very careful about how or when we intervene. Like you said, if it's a safety issue, we want to go ahead and do something. But other than that, we probably don't want to come in front of the classroom and say, well, you probably shouldn't be teaching it like this. Like you said, leave a note on their desk. If there's a break in between class periods, definitely go to them then and say, hey, this is what I noticed. Let's talk about what you were teaching today.
And then that teacher should address the kid, that person should address the kids later and say, you know what, I think I need to
The teacher,
deal with
yes.
this again. That's why that is what needs to happen.
Absolutely. The teacher needs to go back and readdress it with the
And it also
students.
makes the teacher a little bit more human.
Absolutely.
You know, to have that moment to say, guys, I totally had a dumb
Right.
Let me go back and explain this and clarify this a little bit more. And if you're able to talk with your mentee about that in a personal conversation, maybe at lunch, right after that block, before they get to the next block, it gives them a chance to say, oh my gosh, I did do that.
Right.
I've all had that moment all along. You know?
Right.
But if you make it a little more human, because we all are human, we all make mistakes, and they know that it's okay that they made a mistake, but now they get to correct it, I think that it gives them a little bit more ease to go in there and figure out how to teach them.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't take away from the
Kids respect
kids.
that.
Yes. But it also doesn't take away the authority that that teacher now has. It's the trust that they have in their teacher that they know what they're talking about. If I correct that teacher in front of the students now know, well, she knows what she's talking
Exactly.
about.
Exactly.
So it keeps that trust, it keeps that
Exactly.
engaged and respect from the students to the teacher.
Exactly. And it keeps that trusting relationship between the mentor and the mentee. Okay. So now that we have gone in for our observation, we're going to have to collect some evidence. And Jenna's going to talk to us about how we'll do that.